Having a similar or the exact same name as someone can be a little bit weird to me at sometimes, or just weird in general. Like, why are you gonna steal my name like that? Yeah, I'm looking at you, Mark Narrations. I'm just kidding, but in our first story, they're very much not kidding about this one. This is a very big issue. G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee, and welcome back to another episode of r/AmITheA. Now, if you love a little bit of controversy, a little bit of a spicy discussion, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and get ready for our first story. It's gonna be good. Am I the asshole for not wanting my half-brother to have the same name as me? This is a really weird question, but for some reason, it's turned into a whole issue. When I, 16 male, was born, my parents named me Giuseppe after my grandpa on my mum's side. My parents got divorced when I was 5, but my mum got sick when I was 12 and passed away a year later, so I had to go live full-time with my dad. 2 years ago, my dad started dating Kaylee until they got married. I'm not close with Kaylee, but that's not because we don't like each other. We just don't talk a lot, and I'm always staying with my grandma or uncle on my mum's side when I'm not at my dad's. They found out they're pregnant months ago and also learned that it's a boy. Ever since, Kaylee keeps saying she also wants her son to be named Giuseppe, because she likes the name so much and how it sounds. I straight up told her that's my name, and it would be very weird having my half-bro having the exact same name as me. Kaylee said that it wasn't weird at all, and I don't own the name, so I can't say it's mine. She seemed really mad that I called it weird and said that I should get used to it because that's the name they're deciding on. My dad backed her up at first, but we talked a little more, and I just told him that it didn't feel right for the two of us to have the exact same name, and maybe that could be a middle name or something if she likes it so much. He talked to Kaylee about changing it to a middle name so the first name can be something else, but she just got more mad. Now she says I'm ruining this whole experience by making a big deal over a name. My dad is in the middle. He's willing to back me up and not let Kaylee name their baby that, but says that I should just let it go. My uncle, Dad's brother, and some of my friends agree that it's weird, but Kaylee is being super cold, so I don't know if I'm wrong here. Am I the asshole? Look, I agree with you that she is being super weird in this situation. Finally, someone actually has some sense in this subreddit and agrees with you that it's weird, and your dad isn't just being a flying monkey for this woman. I'm pretty sure Giuseppe number 2 is going to find it weird also when they grow up and they're like, oh yeah, why do I have the same name as you? That's kind of odd, isn't it? I don't get why she has such a tight grip on the name, but it's obviously not too good in this situation and no one else agrees with it but her. So I'm going to go with not the a-hole for this. Now in the comments, Hollow Rose says, not the a-hole. Personally, I find that really weird. I'm surprised your dad agreed to it at first. Dad only agreed because she's the one usually in charge and can withhold fun time. Not the a-hole OP. That's just wrong, and I think the middle name would be fine, but she'd probably call him by the middle name then. Call me cynical and hardened to toxic families, but my worst assumption is she wants to replace his kid that she likes less with a new one by the same name. She's trying to cause a divide, and OP should keep making a stink about it. I think that's exactly what's going on. She views OP as baggage, and this lets her kill 2 birds with 1 stone. She replaces the kid she views as baggage, and she pursued a plan that predictably has upset OP and distances him from his father. It's incredibly calculated and cruel. And also, OP's not named after her or his dad. It's OP's mum's dad. Neither of them have any personal connection except for OP, so it's absolutely either intentional or they are denser than depleted uranium. See, that's what I was confused about. Why would she want to use a family name from his mother's side? That's just petty and stupid. Not the a-hole, she's jealous of OP and his mother and wants the confusion of names. Oh, I meant my son. Couldn't correctly spell the name, lol. This is the most screwed up crap I've ever seen. Beth Taylor 1223 says, not the a-hole. That's weird as hell for 2 brothers to have the same name. Where is the baby's sense of identity when he literally has the same name as his brother? Where is his individuality? They did this to Vincent van Gogh and it messed up his head. In the Netherlands, it was very common to reuse a name if a previous child was stillborn or died very young. It happened to my father-in-law, who got the name of a brother who was deceased before FIL was born, 1943. The difference there being that the previous child is dead. It happens in Ireland too. It makes genealogy fun, but never with a still living child. That's a bad omen. And Mary the Penguin says, not the a-hole obviously. If it were me, I would have said, I'm honoured you would name your firstborn after me. I would be such a pretentious prig about it that she would no longer want to use the name. Yes, this is awesome. Maybe also double down, and since OP is already so much older, pretend to muse aloud. I bet a lot of people will think he's really mine since he's named after me, so let's call him Junior in public. Look, I'm not 100% on how that naming tradition works, but would not be shy about telling my stepmother that he'll be a junior on a technicality, and then referring to the new baby by all of the junior nicknames. Chip, GJ, JR, Junior, Junie, Little G, and Little Giuseppe. I would also be making every joke I could, like, Little G, like a little gangster. That's so cool. Look, I'm eating Chip. You know, our little Chip. Do you think you'll get any of my teachers? Maybe they'll think you found a way to clone me. Giuseppe too, the return of Giuseppe. And now onto the update. So my little bro was born last week, and I'm still the only Giuseppe in the family, and my grandpa. I did like some of you were saying to do, and had another talk with my dad to get him to understand. I'm glad everyone agreed that it was super weird, and for bringing up that it could cause some identity issues in the future if we have the same name. Plus the fact that it feels like she's trying to replace me and take a name away that she didn't even know about until she met me. My dad actually heard me this time, and he said he was sorry for not fully thinking about how this would make me feel. He listened more when I brought up the identity thing and how it could cause problems for us in the future, so thanks for mentioning that. But after that, he still wouldn't talk to Kaylee about changing her mind. My uncle, his brother, and his other family actually started giving him crap after I told them. They told him that's weird AF, and my uncle even told Kaylee too, which made her super mad. So after that, my dad was like, okay, he's not going to be named that at all. They had a lot of fights over it because Kaylee wouldn't let it go, but my dad said there was no way in hell the baby was also going to be named Giuseppe, and they were going to have a big problem if she tries to name him that. Not going to say he threatened to end things because I wasn't in the room when they had their fight, but it was pretty big the way he said it. So yeah, she gave up, but she was being super bitchy to me for a while. It was awkward, but whatever. I was just glad she stopped with the name thing. And the name they gave my bro isn't close to mine at all. Anyway, he's really cute, my dad says he looks just like me when I was born, and it's gonna be boring until I can play with him in a few months, lol. Kaylee's still being different, but she doesn't say anything when I'm holding my brother. He cries a lot, but I love him a lot, and I'm happy that he's not Giuseppe 2.0. Now in the comments, Shiv315 says, I find it weird that your dad didn't talk to Kaylee after you spoke with him. He only talked to Kaylee after his family tore into him. That's cause he's a spineless partner. He only cared when he was made fun of directly, not so much when his kid felt uncomfortable. Uncle made Dad upset because Uncle made fun of Dad about the name, and that's what caused him to change. Interesting. That is telling of bad character in my book. But for OP's sake, I'm glad the final result was satisfactory, even if the why was... I'm struggling to think of the right word, and I hope it's not too mean to say pathetic, but I can't think of a better word. Caring about your kids' feelings is great, but only caring when you were directly made fun of by your brother is pathetic parenting in my book. It's a bad reason to change. The right reason was for your kid, not yourself. So maybe it's more that I see his selfish reason for actually changing as a sign of bad character. Also, in my book, he more or less didn't care about the feelings and well-being of both children, because no way in hell the name sharing would have had any positive effect on either boy. I mean, for frick's sake, normal people wouldn't even name their dogs the same name, at the same time. Amara Undone says, I can't believe anyone besides George Foreman would even consider naming their kids the same thing. Here are my 8 children, all named George, lol. Same. And Hobnob1974 says, I missed this the first time around, and oh my, your little brother dodged a bullet there. My grandfather gave his son with a new wife the same name as my dad. Let's say Joe. Now, at the royal age of 58, he's still Little Joe and will be Little Joe until my dad dies. Unsurprisingly, he's not close to my dad and resents him. Our next post is by user Throwaway for Privacy 76, titled, "Am I the a-hole for requesting a doctor that is more fluent in my language?" So this is a throwaway account and I'm on mobile, so excuse my formatting. Also, I'm not a native English speaker. Important background info, I'm autistic and have ADHD. Due to this, I have some problems with auditory processing, aka I hear just fine, but sometimes my brain just refuses to process the information. It feels like you've been spoken to in a language that you didn't speak. My APD, auditory processing disorder, acts up more with certain ways of speaking. E.g., stuttering or unusual speaking rhythm are very hard for me to understand. The problem arose when I got a new psychiatrist. He's not native to my country, which I do not have a problem with, but he doesn't speak my native language very well. I've seen him once now, and it was a disaster. I understood maybe half of what he was saying. My brain just short-circuited, and I felt like an idiot asking, "Sorry, could you repeat slower?" and "Could I get that in writing?" the whole hour. We got nothing done, and it left me almost crying and having trouble speaking myself. ASD messing with my whole language processing. I went straight to reception and told the lady I would like to request a new doctor. She asked me why, and I told her that I couldn't understand the one that I'd been given. She checks my info and just huffs. She, in a very cold tone, says, "I can understand him just fine. We don't let patients pick their doctors on racial bias." I am just shocked. I didn't even consider him being not white, as this is a very white country, I might add. I'm already really anxious, so I start crying and say that I just can't continue seeing him over and over. People are looking at us, I can't help it, and the lady is getting more annoyed with me. She says there's nothing she can do for me, and that it's a very a-hole-ish move of me to make such a scene, and that she won't be helping me anymore. She did not use those words, but I can't remember what she said exactly. I went to a bathroom to finish my crying, and then I called my mum. She agreed that I should get transferred to another doctor, but that it's my fault for not being clear on my reasons. I later got an email from my doctor that he's sad that I feel like I can't work with someone like him, but at this moment, I could not be transferred. He expressed that I had hurt him and that I was in the wrong. Now I'm wondering if I really am the asshole. I'm gonna go with no assholes here in this one. I know that this is a failure of communication, but I don't feel like it was a particularly malicious failure of communication by either party. Obviously, the reception woman couldn't understand OP and didn't get the reasons for why, so she, assumed that it was racism. OP themselves were too distraught and upset to give the reason for why that needed to be done, and I just feel bad for this doctor. The doctor has done nothing wrong in this situation. They've tried to do their job, they can't communicate effectively with OP, and then they see the reception lady thinking that this is racism. Obviously, if the doctor had this information at the time, they wouldn't take it as racism and they wouldn't take it as something to be upset by. I don't think you can call OP an asshole for not communicating that information. They obviously need help, and this is a mistake. We all make mistakes, so no assholes here. Now in the comments, Forgotten Troll says, "Not the asshole. For something like psychiatry, it's very important for doctors and clients to be able to communicate clearly. Doubly so in your case because of your condition. In the United States, the magic words for your requests are, I have a disability that makes it difficult for me to understand certain kinds of spoken language. I would like to request a reasonable accommodation for that disability." This right here. Don't let the receptionist shame you for being an advocate for yourself. With any condition, it's important to feel comfortable with your doctor and to be able to communicate comfortably. I can maybe understand why the receptionist might have jumped to the racial thing, but it wasn't her place to just call you out like that with no information. It wasn't racially motivated, and she just jumped straight to that and spurted it out in public. Again, Please don't let others make you feel guilty or shamed for advocating for your own health. Blue Jay Fisher says, no a-holes here. But you should have been clear when you asked to switch. It would absolutely have sounded to this woman like his race was a factor, and you did nothing to contradict that. A simple, I have APD and require a doctor who has as little an accent as possible would have made things clearer. It's not this lady's fault for assuming the most obvious thing. And OP replies, after I'd calmed down, I thought about this, and my mum said this as well, but I can't help feeling like she was unreasonably mean to me. I was already visibly upset and almost crying when I went to the reception, and what I said, if translated more like word to word, was, I cannot understand my doctor's way of speaking. I don't think I was being rude, but I can't be sure as I'm not good at recognizing those kinds of tones, etc. I'll probably email my doctor to explain, since he's a specialist in my conditions and will maybe understand better. I think the biggest issue for you here is that you went to speak to the receptionist already upset. If all the receptionist had to do was insinuate that there was a racist motive for you to start crying and then be unable to have a conversation, you were too upset to be having that conversation at that time. Next time something like this happens, I'd really suggest taking the time to calm yourself and ground yourself before having to have a difficult conversation. I can't be mad at this receptionist. In this situation, 9 times out of 10, the person is just being racist. Complaining about accents goes up exponentially when the person isn't white, in case you don't know. That's a common thing. So I can't blame her for assuming that, especially considering you are unable to refute it. Emailing the doctor is a good idea. You'll be able to explain about your APD more clearly, and he should understand. Best of luck getting a new doctor. And OP replies, I think I understand her POV better now. At the moment, I couldn't just think clearly, and I just wanted to have a new doctor so that I wouldn't need to experience this again. A lot went wrong with this on my side as well. I probably should have disclosed my autism so that she would have understood me better. I still felt really bad after the whole thing, as I didn't understand at all why things happened the way they did. Also, her suggestion of racial bias wasn't what made me cry. It was the denial of my request. It's hard to explain, but sometimes my emotions are a little too big for the situation. So her no became, you are stuck with this doctor, and every time I need new meds, etc., I will have to go through this again, and I can't do it. Which was the last straw in that moment. I don't really know anything about how usual that kind of racism is. As I said, my country is extremely white, so it's probably bad. But something like that didn't really cross my mind before this. If it is usual for such a thing to happen, then I get her reaction a little better. Look, I understand. I know these things are very upsetting. I'd just imagine that this woman has had to field a lot of racist patients since this guy arrived. Probably an awful lot in a similar, I just can't understand him, can't I see someone else, vein. Also, I get it. I'm autistic too, and having to speak with doctors and psychiatrists, etc. is an absolute nightmare. I think it's just important that this doesn't become a stupid woman jumping at everything and calling everything racism thing, when it's pretty understandable that she inferred that, even if it wasn't the case. Hopefully you can get things sorted with this doctor. I wish you the best of luck. And now on to the update. I must start with thanking everyone for commenting. It made me feel so much better that there are people here that had the patience to explain what might have gone wrong and give advice, as I really had a hard time figuring the whole thing out. I emailed my doctor the next day and explained the situation. In short, I explained how my APD makes it hard for me to understand him, and that I was really overwhelmed after my visit, so I couldn't explain myself properly. I also expressed that it made me feel awful that I had been put in that position, and that his feelings had also been hurt as a result. Luckily, the doctor was really understanding in his reply, and apologized on behalf of himself and the receptionist. He then went on to agree that my reasons are indeed valid, and that we were not a good doctor-patient match. He said he will work everything out and apologized once more. I'm glad to say everything was resolved, and I even received an apology card from the receptionist, and my new doctor is a very nice lady whom understands me and my problems extremely well. I decided not to escalate as everything worked out in the end, and all offending sides were sincerely sorry. Thanks to everyone who commented and helped me figure this out. Now in the comments, Bnomly says, I'm so glad to hear that things worked out. I didn't see your original post when you first posted it, but reading it now, I could feel your pain coming through your words. It does sound like it was just a horrible misunderstanding, and I'm glad your new therapist is someone who understands you. Best of luck to you in the future. And OP replies, thank you. It really was just a huge misunderstanding all around, even worse than the usual misunderstandings that happen with me. Big hug. I have a communication learning disability, and I have issues with accents and process communications. I get in a lot of crap and get called racist a lot when I try to get transferred to someone else when I don't understand. Even when I pass the phone off to my husband to translate for me. Once I wanted to try Indian food, and I got a lady which I couldn't understand. I said, I'm sorry, I have a learning disability and I can't understand you. Is there someone else I can talk to? Which is a common phrase that I say. She yelled at me and hung up. My husband called back and they wouldn't pick up. Huh.